The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hello everybody, welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. The sun is setting on what's been a beautiful day here in Adelaide, a very hot day, which we didn't quite realise until we stepped outside, did we, Louis? But Australia, they finished the day on 8 for 326 after winning the toss. Plenty to talk about after the first day's play of this third Ashes Test. Where do we begin, Lou?
Well, with the weather maybe, because David Saker walked into the press conference just now and I think someone asked him, is the fact that the bowling coach is speaking a sign of how you view the day? And he just said, well, no, it would just be hard on any of our bowlers to front up after fronting up in the heat, in scorching heat. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, well, it wasn't that hot. And then we walked immediately out and I'm like, oh, it is really hot. I haven't properly been out in the sun today. And we've been in a nice air-conditioned box. We live a nice life, don't we, Josh? But it's going to get even hotter tomorrow. And that's where I think Australia might have just fallen a little bit short. Despite some excellent batting performances that we're going to talk about, it's going to be 40 degrees tomorrow, or very close to. That wicket should get a bit quicker. It should get a bit better to bat on. And I feel like Australia, at this point, might just be feeling like they don't quite have enough runs.
Yeah, England's bowlers, they didn't wilt today in the heat. In fact, they were pretty consistent throughout the whole day, other than a start to the day which Michael Vaughan called garbage on Fox Cricket.
Did he really?
They were a bit wayward early, but that was all after Steve Smith was the late out. We found out that news a bit under an hour before the toss. It brought Khawaja back in, who had a good day, and Australia got starts. A lot of their batters did pretty well, made a lot of good partnerships. But the day certainly belongs to Alex Carey, the hometown hero. The Adelaide Oval was chanting his name when he brought up that 100 today, and it was a pretty emotional one for him as well, wasn't it?
It was his finest Ashes moment, for sure, Josh. I don't think it was his best Test innings. I reckon the 98 not out he made in Christchurch early last year, where he kind of rescued him and Pat Cummins rescued Australia from a really dire situation. I think that's probably number one, probably something we could have asked him. But
so this eclipses the stumping of Johnny Best.
That might be the Ashes moment he'll be known for the most. Not the only thing you'll ever be known for, as Stuart Broad tried to say. But yeah, it was his best performance in an Ashes Test for sure. And a really special note to it. His father Gordon died in September. His family were here. I think he said some of his uncles and cousins, and of course his wife Eloise and their two kids. But Eloise was crying, when we brought up the 100, and it was just such a special moment. You could just see how much it meant to Alex. He looked up to the heavens. He was fist pumping before he even got to the ton. He's a pretty calm, cool, measured guy. He keeps his emotions in check. He even said in the press conference he didn't really want to show that side of him, but he did a little bit today, and I think we all enjoyed it.
Definitely. He came out of the blocks pretty quickly too. When Australia had lost their fourth wicket, he got to 26 off 24, and then sort of got himself a bit more measured as wickets were eventually falling around him. He just gets those punches that sort of off the front foot, sort of off the back foot, that go through the gaps on the offside. I think that's a really good part of his game. But he had a couple of, I won't say lives, because the first one was an LBW decision that England thought was definitely out. That was given not out after England called for the review. But then on 72, he perhaps edged one behind.
I'm not sure about the perhaps bit. Yeah.
And England were certain. Of course, it was given not out by umpire Raza. They went upstairs, and then the DRS didn't seem to really sync up. Can you sort of explain what happened there?
David Saker could. He was the England bowling coach we mentioned did the presser. He was pretty filthy. Let's be honest. He basically said that this has been something that's been going on all series. He said that there was another incident in Perth, which I couldn't quite remember off the top of my head, so I'm going to have to look that up after this presser. But they feel like the RTS has just been a little bit off. There was certainly a noise. So Carey's gone for the big cut shot, given not out, but Jamie Smith behind the stumps is just like, that's out. Review immediately. Ben Stokes sends it upstairs, and you see quite a big spike, what looks like an edge kind of spike, a couple of frames before the ball passes Carey's bat. But then when it's passing Carey's bat, it's completely flat. So, that can sometimes happen. There can be other rustles of noise. It can be, a foot dragging along the ground. But in this instance, everything just pointed towards that being an edge. but the third umpire just couldn't give it out because it wasn't married up. So I don't think it was a failure from the third umpire, unless you want to argue that he should be able to kind of recognise that was an edge and maybe look at something different. But like this seems to be a failure if this was indeed an edge, which, I mean, Carey basically admitted he hit it. So this seems to be a failure in the technology, and that's why England are pretty upset about it.
Carey was also asked if he was a walker, and his response was, "Oh, clearly not," because there was a sound. I found it interesting as well that the now retired umpire Simon Torfel said on Channel 7 that to him it was definitely a spot of an edge, because he's never seen the sound waves go that sharply up and down, I suppose, if it's not an edge. So I guess there is that little bit of history there. But again, you can't make that call if it doesn't marry up in the time, can you?
Well, people will argue there's been a long-running thing about specialist third umpires and specialist television umpires that maybe that's something we really need to invest in international cricket. I think there's a lot of merit in that, and potentially someone who was a real expert in sound waves and had some training in how these what an edge looks like versus what a foot scratching on the ground looks like. Maybe someone like that would be emboldened to make that kind of call, because it would have been a bold call for the third umpire, because Australia would be going, hang on, like that's we're seeing the same thing as you, and that's not out according to what we know about it. The other one is the thing people always ask about is, well, what about hotspot? Why isn't that being used? Well, I think we kind of know now that that it's quite an expensive technology. I think it was like a military kind of technology initially kind of converted for television, and Australia was the last place to kind of keep using it for quite a while, but they've kind of gone against it. That would have been perfect for this one. I think that would have been pretty conclusive either way. As it were, it didn't go England's way, and I think they just feel like they've got the raw end of the stick a couple of times in this series. Yeah,
it would have capped off what has been an otherwise really good day for the tourists after that slow start and obviously losing the toss. They took 2 wickets on 33 and then took 2 wickets on 94. The shining light of that first half of the innings, though, was Usman Khawaja coming back in for his... for another test match, a day before his 39th birthday. He says, "I'm not done," and he was dropped on 5, a catch that probably Harry Brook at second slip should have taken, and Khawaja made them pay. He really took off after that. In fact, he hit 36 runs of his next 28 balls and looked like he was playing without a care in the world.
Well, I feel like to talk about Khawaja today is to probably talk about Steve Smith first of all, because you touched on it off the top, but do we want to kind of just go through what a
let's
weird
back it up.
And wacky kind of set of circumstances? I mean, it goes back even further to Monday, Australia's main training session. Smith was here, but he didn't train at all. He was indoors. We now, at the time we knew he was unwell, but we probably didn't know the extent to what he was going through. He batted on Tuesday, but those who watched him closely suggested he didn't look kind of fully 100% right. Pat Cummins said yesterday at his press conference that he'd be fine to go, and that he's been unwell before games and just gone in. I think that probably marries up. What we didn't know is that he's been experiencing these, I think you call it vestibular issues. So that's your inner ear for the layman, and it's related to the vertigo kind of symptoms that he's had before. I'm told this isn't an instance of vertigo specifically, but it is kind of all related to the same kind of symptoms. That's right. Yeah, this inner ear thing that really throws off your balance and can make you feel nauseous and dizzy. In the past, he's experienced these when he's, after he's been hit in the head. From what I can kind of understand, he had them in 2020 during an ODI series against India. Had them again in 2022 after he knocked his head on the turf trying to take a catch in a T20 game. And then he missed the game against Afghanistan at the 2023 World Cup when he was feeling it. He seems to, as quick as they come on, is basically as quick as they seem to go away. So it probably suggests that he'll be fine for Melbourne. It also probably suggests that he'll be fine. He might have been arguing that he would have been fine for this test. Even though he might have been saying, even though I'm feeling not great today, I feel like days 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll be okay. As it were, you could see in the warm-up, Cummins and McDonald were speaking to him, and it looked like they were telling him, "No, mate, you're not right," versus the other way around, which, at the time kind of surprised me, because I would have thought Smith would be the one ruling himself in or out. Like, only he can really know how bad he's feeling. ultimately it was probably the right call. If he wasn't right to bat today, Australia were always going to win the toss and bat if the coin fell their way. It did. He would have been batting inside, the 9th, 10th over.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't 100%, then that's when they would have really needed him. And as it were, Usman Khawaja comes in and does a pretty good job at number 4, right?
Yeah, and probably for the best as well, because on a pretty sapping day it hit 35 degrees here as well. I mean, that's going to be tough for anybody, let alone not feeling 100%. So,
I mean, we thought Usman Khawaja's career was over, right? Like, we were basically writing the tribute piece to him yesterday. I think, we're all kind of thinking, well, what does the future hold for a guy who turns 39 on Thursday of this test match? He's been left out of the team. Head and Weatherald seem to be going really well as an opening combination. Australia have kind of shown their cards now by suggesting they really like Head as a red ball opener, and the Weatherald's had a really strong start to his career. So that looked like it was over and done with for Usman. But I mean, he's an adaptable, versatile player, and he kind of showed all of that when he batted today, didn't he?
Yeah, well, they went at him with the short stuff early, put those fielders back, and were sort of hoping that maybe those reflexes have slowed down and they could use their archers and casters to really rough him up. But it wasn't the case. He looked, after that drop catch, like I said, I feel like he looked as comfortable as he has for a long time at the crease. So he was hitting lots of boundaries, finding the gaps, and maybe that's also another thing. When you're out of form, you're hitting the fielders in the ring, whereas today he was finding the gaps and sweeping well off Will Jacks, who bowled a lot through that middle session. Felt like it was going to be a certain thing that he was going to get to his 100 after a certain point, didn't it? It was just that top edge sweep shot that brought him undone.
That's right. And a couple of funny day for Will Jacks. He's gone at more than 5 and over, but he's ended up getting Carey and Usman Khawaja out, Australia's 2 best batters in the day. I mean, it was such a nearly day for Australia. Khawaja nearly becomes the oldest Australian centurion in nearly 50 years. Marnus, I think one of the things Australia would have been worried about when they all of a sudden had this recast 3 and 4 was Marnus and Usman batting together, and they really got bogged down through the latter part of that first session. Australia really, everyone talks about England being the aggressive team in this series, but Australia really, they want to be moving the scoreboard on at all times, and they think if you're nicking and nudging and blocking and back, they think that's when teams can really get a hold of you. So they always prefer the aggressive option. Well, those two actually kind of got out of that rut. Yes, Usman Khawaja gets the luck, but Marnus went back at Ben Stokes. He had a couple of boundaries off one of his overs. Khawaja, as you mentioned, kind of goes on this tear, but that kind of nearly days. So Weatherald before that. It goes out to Archer for the 3rd time in this series. Is he a little bit suspect against much faster bowlers than what he's experienced in the Sheffield Shield? Yes, he would have faced the odd guy who can bowl over 140k an hour, but Test cricket's about dealing with that for maybe your entire innings. So Archer gets him again. Marnus, 250s in his past 2 games. You think he's on the verge of a breakthrough. Another lapse in concentration gets him in the first ball after lunch. Green, we know the knock on him is being a slightly tentative starter. Well, yes, that's something he's improved a lot in, but that looked like a kind of reversion to what we've seen in the past. And then Inglis, it's had 2 really good opportunities to make some runs. Only 2. He's made starts in both of them, but a bit of a white ball shot, I thought, to try and guide Josh Tongue down to 3rd man. Yeah. That might be a little bit harsh, and it was still really early in his career, but a nearly day for Australia with the bat.
Jofra Archer was great with the ball, definitely to stand out from England's point of view. He bowled long spells at the start of every session today. 6 in the first session, 4 in the second, and then 5 at the start of the third. And it was very economical in all 3 of those. And then he got a chance, just 1 over with the new ball at the end of the day, which may have been a little bit of a misstep by Stokes, because Stokes gave himself 2 overs with the new ball, which meant Archer could only bowl 1. As it turned out, they couldn't get Nathan Lyon out, or Mitchell Starc, who, should be said, made a very good 33 again with the bat.
Well, if they bowled their overs at faster than 12 overs an hour, then they would have had maybe 10 overs with the new ball later in the day. I mean, they've only got themselves to blame for only getting 3 overs with it. Yeah,
and I agree. I think I was looking at Will Jacks today. I think part of that desire to get to the second new ball was the fact that he bowled 14 overs straight from the river end today, 1 for 80 during that spell. So again, you're conceding a lot of runs, but you are getting through your overs quicker. So that was an interesting tactic that England brought into today.
Yeah, and he's a funny one, Jax. I think we said on the podcast the other day, I kind of think he I actually think he's their best spinner, having watched Bethel and Bashir in the nets. I think Jack's going to gets a high arm release and put some decent revs on it, but he does bowl a lot of short stuff. I think today he probably got exposed a little bit by. It's not really his fault. He's played a lot of T20 cricket and probably not that much first class cricket. Well, when you don't have to bowl 20 overs in a day in T20 cricket, you bowl 24 balls, and you can kind of bowl short to get a guy off strike. But 20 overs in a day is about 120 balls, and you got to try and land at the same spot over and over again. There was some good stuff in amongst it. Like at times he kind of got some bounce, and he looked like he showed that this wicket will spin a bit. So I think Nathan Lyon will like the look of that. But I think Archer deserves a fair bit of credit. Like his ticker got questioned after the last game. Only bowl fast when there's nothing on the line, champion, all that stuff from Steve Smith. Well, there was plenty on the line today, and he delivered. That was, I think, the best bowling effort by an English bowler in this series. Yes, that was the first day in Perth, but these were much tougher bowling conditions that required a lot of persistence. He was superb, big tick for Archer, hitting 140-ish, that 140-ish mark. That's him bowling within himself and being able to kind of nip it from that speed and hitting a really good length. So, he did really well. I thought, Carson was an interesting one. They decided to keep him for this game. I thought Atkinson has definitely missed the mark a little bit in the first two tests, but I felt like I probably would have stuck with him. I just feel like he's the kind of nippy bowler that can be dangerous with new ball on Australian surfaces. But you can understand. Carson's just such a wholehearted guy and good fielder too. Like he took two good catches there through the middle. I know he dropped one in Brisbane, but that might have kind of got him the nod here. And then Tung I thought was better than his figures suggested. But look, all of them apart from Archer just let the pressure off a bit too often. I think both sides will probably be walking away thinking that they probably should have done a bit better today.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of those run rates that you touched on, I had a look for the series. England's run rate have been 4.15 and Australia's hovering at around 4.5. So Aussies are batting quicker, despite the talk around England's batting team. So I think we need to give a bit of credit to Mitchell Starc. Another 63 balls soaked up today. Only Carey, Root and Stokes have faced more balls in the series than Starc
Is that right?
to this
That's
point. So he's doing it with the ball and he's doing it with the bat at the minute, Big Mitch.
Having an amazing series. Really looking forward to seeing how he goes with the ball tomorrow. They're going to need to show a lot tomorrow with the ball because it's going to be bloody hot. They got the four quicks in with Cameron Green there as well. Pat Cummins, he's probably come in for the flattest wicket of the series, and he hasn't played a game of cricket, any game of cricket, T20, park cricket, whatever, in 5 months since he hurt his back. They're all saying that he's the kind of guy who can do this. He can come in off little preparation. Well, this is a pretty extreme example of it. So let's see how he goes in some pretty tough conditions tomorrow.
All right, we'll finish with the BBL grid game, Luke. Given that the KFC Big Bash is well underway, today rating score of 22, so I'm pretty happy with that. As low as possible, remember, is the goal. Check out the Big Bash app if you want to play. My most rare player today was Ravi Bopara, a Sixers international player. He played a couple of seasons with them in the early days.
Yes, so international player and Sydney Sixers, that was the kind of crossover.
Yeah, do you remember Bopara?
I do, yeah. Batting all-rounder, played a lot of white ball cricket for England. Yeah, that's a good one. I wouldn't have remembered him. I would have gone for someone like Jivan Mendes. I think.
That's a good one. Very nice. A Sri Lankan spinner, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was a mystery spinner. Might have gone both ways. Would have got a slightly rarer score than Bopara, but I think would have been neck and neck.
Well done. Well, let us know your scores as well in the BBL grid game. Louis, we'll catch you tomorrow after day 2.
Thanks, Josh.